This is Modern World History 4.1, explaining the changing boundaries in Europe and Asia as a result of competition between nation-states during the 17th and 18th century. We just got through talking about absolutism and some of the leaders of that movement, that form of government, absolute monarchs. We're going to look at Louis the 14th here, okay? And he was known as the Sun King, as he was very powerful in Europe and tried to expand his borders. Okay, we're looking at 1638 through 1715. Okay, and he was considered the most powerful monarch of his time. And as I said earlier, he's trying to expand his borders by seizing territory around his nation state. So as we look here and we see the arrow, you can see the expansion that he's trying in what would be considered the Holy Roman Empire there, in those areas. As a result, by 1680, several nations joined together to stop Louis the 14th of France. Several battles were fought, which caused a great, tremendous financial, social, and political cost to France. In fact, the high cost of these wars, combined with poor harvest, produced serious problems for the French citizens. The final war fought by Louis' time lasted from 1700 to 1713, and it was called the War of Spanish Succession. Okay, so if I bring the arrow over here, we can see where Spain is and France. So as we look at it, and as I draw here, they were trying to combine their total weight and power against other European nations. Other European nations at the time decided to stand up to this power base of France and Spain, and because they felt threatened. The number one country to do so was England, and England was able to pretty much neutralize France and Spain, and eventually they were having to give up some of their colonies in America and beyond. And then England, of course, would be the new power in Europe. In this next slide, we're going to look at the 30 Years' War. After a period of turmoil, and absolute monarchs ruled Austria and the German state of Prussia. So, as I show here, you can look at the key. All right, so we're talking about Prussian and Austria. Okay, that was the area there in Europe. Germany had suffered from religious wars that ended around 1555. Rulers of each state agreed that they would decide whether their lands would be Catholic and Protestant. We discussed that in the last standard. However, over the following decades, tensions arose between Catholics and Protestants, ultimately in a new series of battles. The 30 Years' War began in 1618. Okay. In the first half of the war, the Catholic forces led by Ferdinand, the Holy Roman Emperor, won. However, Germany suffered because he allowed his armies to take advantage of the poor peasants, which adversely affected the large group of German citizens. Ferdinand was dealt another blow when the King of Sweden, who was a Protestant, won several battles against him. And then in the last years of the war, France helped the Protestants. Even though France, you can see here, France was a Catholic country, they helped out with the Protestant nations. And their fear was that the Habsburg family in Austria here would become too powerful. The 30 Years' War ended in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia. The war was a disaster for Germany. About 4 million people died, and the economy was in ruins. The peace weakened the power of Austria. Okay, here, and Spain, but and of course the Spanish would be out here. But made France stronger. Okay, so France gained strength through that war. Because of this war, each nation in Europe was seen as having equal right to negotiate with the other nations. While strong states arose in Western Europe, none emerged in Eastern Europe. So we're talking Eastern Europe, this area in here, Poland, Lithuania, Hungary, on down here. So this is the area we're talking about as far as Eastern Europe is concerned. The economies were less developed in the East compared to the West, and most people were still peasants. This region had not built an economy based in towns. Nobles enjoyed great power, which kept the power of rulers in check. Still, two important powers arose at this time period. The Habsburg family ruled in Austria, Hungary, and Bohemia. So we can see, as I erase right here, and they ruled this area here, becoming extremely powerful. All right. And this empire linked many different types of people. Maria Theresa, the Queen of Austria, managed to increase her power and cut that of the nobles. She was opposed by the King of Prussia, a new state in northern Germany. So here's Prussia, and the Prussian state would be a very big military state eventually, and there would be this rivalry between the two states, Austria and Prussia. Those kings built strong states with much power given to large, well-trained armies, and that's what I just said. In 1740, okay, we want to look at Frederick the Great of Prussia invaded one of Maria Theresa's lands. The queen fought hard to keep the territory, but lost. Still, in fighting this war of Austrian secession, she managed to keep the rest of her empire intact. The two sides fought again, beginning in 1756. So there would be constant conflict here between Prussia and Austria, back and forth, and they're fighting. So that's a pretty long time. You can see 1740, 1756, a 16-year period. In this last slide in our Modern World History 4.1 standard, we're looking at the 7 Years' War. Austria abandoned Great Britain for France and Russia. Okay, so we've got to look here. We've got Austria, and it abandoned its alliance with Great Britain for France, okay, and Russia. So we'll kind of draw ties there together, and looking at arrow, we can see here, here, and then France. Okay. Prussia joined Britain, so we have to look at the Prussians here, and Great Britain, and even Portugal. So their connection was here. So what we're basically looking at is something that we'll talk about later is alliances between nations. Okay, so we were looking at nationalism standard or two ago, and now we need to look at alliances and how that's going to affect world peace. In the victory, the Prussians and the British won in this war. In the victory, Britain gained complete control of its overseas colonies of France, including those in Asia. So you can see definitely here with Great Britain's win, they were able to control here the American colonies, what France had in Canada, and also looking at in Asia here in India, and controlling those colonies. So in the 7 Years' War, Britain became the big winner with Prussia.